causes ADD, job struggles, family problems, other stresses, and to just surmount on top of each other. Remember, serotonin was our sleep molecule? Well, when it's down and our adrenaline is up, for long periods of time we get insomnia, burnout, chronic fatigue. Our sensitivity to pain, because we needed to know if we were injured by that tiger, is up, and over long periods of time can cause chronic pain, fibromyalgia. And then the last thing here, our cellular immunity, it goes down. Our immune system's not important when we're trying to run from this tiger. But over long periods of time, cancer and frequent illness can occur. Now, cancer is an immune system problem. Our own immune system's not killing that cancer. Growth and sex hormones are down, can cause infertility and impotence, those types of problems. Bone loss is up, because that wasn't important when we were in front of that tiger. And so osteoporosis and accelerated aging. And guys, we just weren't meant to run from this tiger all day long, every day, for our entire lives. What we just covered are what we call the diseases of chronic stress, and realize we just covered virtually every disease that's plaguing our nation right now. One of the reasons why I do this talk specifically is because when I was 18, my mother passed away. She died of a heart attack. She had chronic heart disease, she had diabetes, she had half the things on this list right here. These are what we just went over: heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, ADD, depression, obesity, anxiety, fatigue, chronic pain, osteoporosis, fibromyalgia, lack of sleep, decreased sex drive, infertility, indigestion, accelerated aging, and there's more related to this chronic stress response in our body. Now, all of these diseases are related to a lifestyle, a chronic lifestyle, and we were never created to live in. And so where a lot of us are living is in a pathological environment, which means the environment is making us sick. But here's an issue with our healthcare system today. Our healthcare system looks at these symptoms as the problem, and not the environment as the problem. And so what happens is we have two things mainly in our healthcare system today: drugs and surgery. And we give drugs and surgery to cover up these symptoms, these natural symptoms that our body, our natural stress response is putting out. And then what happens? Well, we have to use more drugs or more surgery to cover up the symptoms that those cause. Now, I'm not saying that drugs are a bad thing. They're very, very useful. In fact, when they're used and when they're supposed to be used, they save lives. But here's a study done by the World Health Organization. And see, we're number one in the entire world when it comes to emergency care. If you get in a car accident, if you have a heart attack, if you break your arm or your leg, this is the best country to be in, because they'll save your life better than any other country in the world. But that same study showed that out of 40 countries, the health of our citizens were 37th right now. Now that's interesting when we said we're about 5% of the population of the world, but we take over 62% of the world's drugs. So if having the most drugs and the best surgeons, if that meant being healthy, don't you think we'd be higher up on the list than 37? And so drugs and surgery can be very, very useful. And I'm not saying that they're a bad thing, but I'm saying it's up to us whether we're healthy or not. It's up to what we decide to do in our environment. We're going to learn more about that. Now, these are the top killers right now in the United States. Number one, cardiovascular disease, kills 750,000 people a year. That's heart disease. Number two, cancer, 500,000 people a year for cancer. Now this comes straight out of the Journal of the American Medical Association. This is their very own journal. And they say that our healthcare system kills about 400,000 people a year, which is the number 3 killer in the United States. Now they say 88,000 are from infections in hospitals that people pick up. They say 225,000 are actually medical error. Everybody makes mistakes, and they're dealing with a lot of people. But this is what I thought was interesting. Over 106,000 people was from non-error prescription drugs, which means you had the right drug at the right time, but you had a bad reaction to it. You know, Tylenol every year is the leading cause of liver and kidney damage, and antibiotics are starting to become just as high on the list as Tylenol. Aspirin, 84% of pancreatic cancer can be caused to aspirin, and 31% of bleeding ulcers. Now, NSAIDs are over-the-counter prescription, medication, ibuprofen, those types of things. And their own journal, again, the Journal of the American Medical Association, says that it kills more than AIDS every year. You see, let's take another analogy. Let's say our body is like this building, okay? And the problem would be like a fire. If there was a fire in this building. Now, pain or whatever symptom that we get would be kind of like the fire alarm going off. And if the fire department heard that fire alarm going off, what would we do if they just barged in here and cut the cord to the alarm and said we stop that terrible noise? And they left. And that would leave the fire burning in our body. And so it's up to us to change our lifestyle and change our environment and turn our health around. Now, how do we achieve health in a stressful environment? That's the question. There's two strategies. One of them is the obvious. We reduce stress in our life. Now, being human, we actually, neurologically, we have a frontal lobe which allows us to make conscious decisions. And so a lot of us, including myself, will go home now and knowing how tough and how bad stress is in our life, we'll make a conscious decision not to let certain things stress us out, right? And we'll try to do that as much as we can. But let's be realistic. Everybody has stress, and you just, nowadays, you can't get out of it. And so what we have to do is get our body to a state where it will adapt to these stresses a lot easier. There's 4 keys that I want to go over, and this first one it's very rare that I find somebody that knows this first one. The chiropractic adjustment will actually relieve stress in the body and allow your body to adapt to stress. And this is why. The nervous system is your brain, your spinal cord, and your nerves. And it controls everything in your entire body. Your brain sends messages through your spine and out those nerves to every organ, every cell, and every tissue. So if we have a misalignment in the spine, our spine, if we have bones out of place putting pressure on these nerves, the messages that's trying to get from the brain to the body won't get there as well. And so that causes stress in itself. The adjustment corrects that. We put the spine back into alignment and we can relieve stress in the body. Now there's other things that we can do. Obviously what we put in our body is going to make a difference on how our body adapts to stress. None of us can hit the perfect diet, especially in our society today. But we try to get as close as we can. And if we know what the perfect diet is, then we can start trying to push towards that direction. We call it the innate diet. It's 65% of our diet coming from real fruits and vegetables. 35% of our diet should be coming from proteins and healthy meats. And then a cup of grain a day to go with that. Now, a lot of us have this one and this one backwards, right? We're eating tons of grains and pastas and bread.